about Annapolis. I've been here a bunch of times, but Alan knows a lot about Annapolis. He's been here a ton. If you guys can hear, tell the people next to you to be a little quieter, then hopefully you can hear. So what we're thinking we're going to do here is we're going to kind of go through what the condition that we're going to see out there with the current, and then Travis and I will give you a little back and forth on how we would set the boat up for that condition. So Al, start us off with, we're kind of going to see that northeasterly quadrant breeze for the weekend. Start us off on what we're going to see.
Yeah, so a lot of northeasterly breeze, especially tomorrow, and then kind of over the weekend dying and shifting to the right. So as the weekend goes on, you know, the big thing for here is the wind will be shifting right, but there'll always be kind of more pressure to the left, and kind of balancing the whole shift to wind situation is always the hard part. I was just looking at the tides. It looks like it's going to be an outgoing tide for most of the weekend. And for those of you out there today, I think a lot of people said it's supposed to be tide coming in, but it's still outgoing. Is that accurate? And one of the things that does happen here a lot to keep in mind is tide at the bottom will be coming in, but on the surface it'll be going out. The surface has a natural tendency to want to go towards the ocean. So even on days where it says, you know, the tide's coming in, it will be going out on the surface. So kind of keep that in mind, that it does happen a lot. A couple things I would recommend, I don't know exactly where you're going to race, and I'm sure it'll be fluid, but just kind of keeping an idea of where the channel is in relation to the race course, and knowing kind of when you cross into the deeper water will affect the tide in those situations, or the current, a lot of it. So I think the one thing that I would kind of be looking for is a big green can kind of out near the bridge, and when that's basically a dividing line for the deeper water. And you know, a lot of people tell you have to hit the left corner really hard. It's not necessarily true. It's just kind of managing where you are in relation to that green can necessarily. So watching that would be a key one for me. And then again, as it gets, tomorrow's gonna be really nice. Honestly, I'm kind of jealous I'm not racing. And then Saturday, Sunday, as it gets lighter, it will be much more shifty, and you're gonna have to manage kind of the pressure to shift more. So it'll be good. Yeah.
Okay. So Travis, give me a quick rundown on that first day. We're going to see 12, 14 knots tomorrow, looks like. I mean, obviously that's probably a little less than the forecast. I'm betting it'll be maybe 8 to 12, probably. But
It'll be like that.
We'll find out. I mean, today was supposed to be windier, so we're going by that. You know, how would you go about setting your boat up for that condition?
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right. I think tomorrow will be a little windier in the morning. This morning when we went out, it was about 15 plus. And the tide was ripping. And by the time we raced, it was slack, a little bit slack, and then obviously lighter too. So yeah, 8 to 12. I don't know, here, because of the current, for me, I just feel like I have to be as powered up as possible. I have other tools I can depower if I need to be, but I think it's going to be, you know, depending on where they race us, it's going to be up and down quite a bit. So I'm going to probably set up at base, unless it is truly the forecast that they're calling for, and then maybe go 24-21. Mast butt position is base for me. I'm probably not going to move it much this week at all. And then just really going through the gear shifting. So like I say, my rig is 2015, and maybe 24-21 tomorrow. Going through the gear shifting, it's a lot of, I like to keep the Traveler up and play the main sheet, but as I've been getting older, I've been going to the Traveler quicker because the main sheet's harder. So just whatever you can do to keep the boat as flat as possible, keep the boat powered so you can keep people hiking. I think that was a big thing for us today, and the practice race was set up so I can at least get most of the people on the rail. I didn't want to ever see someone come off the rail. So I was 2015 today, and cars had the jib leads so we were touch. They tripped pretty tight, you know, 2 inches when we were going well, 1 inch, and then 5 inches when we go through that lull or some chop. That's really all, that's how I'm thinking about it right now.
Yeah, so and I think I would be pretty similar to exactly what you're saying. I think the key here is that the lulls are so large compared to the puffs that you really need to set the boat up for the lulls. So mast butt far back, you're looking for probably that 2.5 to 3 inches of pre-bend in the mast. You're probably going to have that, you know, 2.5 to 3 fingers on the headstay with your mast butt that far back. You're probably going to be spending a lot of time in 2015. You might bump up to that 24-21 setting if we're in the 8 to 12. But again, you're really looking to keep the boat powered up. And through that range, the important thing is that if you find that you're sailing upwind with your backstay either all the way on or all the way off for a long period of time, it's probably time to think about your rig tune. It's probably time to think that if your backstay's all the way on the whole time, it's probably time to step up on the rig tune. If your backstay's all the way off for the entire time and you're starting to have people lean in, it's probably time to go down on the rig tune and get a little bit lower. And so for us today, we were set up similar. Our mash butt happens to be somewhere in the middle of our range, so we were mash butt back, which is basically in the probably the same place that you were. And we were halfway between 2015 and 24-21. So we were, you know, kind of right in that sort of halfway in between setting for our setup. But otherwise, you know, again, it's just being able to get the boat powered up in the light air is really the key. So if you had one thing you were going to focus on your boat, what would it be in that super transitional shifty stuff? What are you using as a driver as your main control?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow is going to be my backstay.
Yeah.
And 100%, like I'll sail upwind, I'll probably lock the main where I like it, and it's probably a fault of mine not to play the main enough, but I definitely tend to grab the backstay, and I sometimes don't even cleat it when it's at 8 to 12 range, and I'm just on, boat flattens out, I just ease it a little bit, and then, you know, if it stays steady, I'll cleat it, but I'm playing that like a main sheet almost, and then leaving my mainsail pretty much where it is.
Yeah, and I think the important part about that question that I'm asking him is that you really don't have enough hands as a driver to do all the controls that you have. So you've got to find the one that's really going to give you the most range through the setting. If it's a little bit breezier, it's going to be the main sheet. In that 8 to 12 range, it might be the backstay, or somewhere a little bit windier than that, it might be going into a little bit of traveler or back, you know, just between the backstay and the main sheet, there might be a little section where you're using the traveler. Or if it's really light, you might have your hand back on the main sheet. Just when the puff hits, you can get those extra couple clicks, and then when the puff goes away, you can kind of ease the main sheet out. But you don't have enough hands to be able to do everything. So you kind of get most of your controls in the middle of the range, in the middle of the kind of corridor that they want to be trimmed, and you find the one that's going to be the most effective for doing what you're trying to do. And, you know, in that 8 to 12 range, Travis is spot on. It's definitely the backstay. So Alan, anything else, just any small takeaways, anything that we might see, any little secret tips or tricks that you might have for around here?
The only thing I would say, just listening to you two, is the general trimmer is way more important than you two are. So
Never let them know that. Never let them know that.
And I would say, for being sitting in the middle of the boat with Mike the whole time, he moves the main sheet, whatever. The general trimmer fixes everything. So,
I'm not even allowed to
so all
look
you
around
general
either.
trimmers out there, don't let them say it's all the main sheet and the backstay, okay? So it's going to be transitional tomorrow. The general trim is going to have quite a bit to do with it. I'm just going to throw it out there.
He's exactly right. We're talking a lot about driving here and what does a driver do. But today, Chris Morgan's with me. We talked the entire way upwind, whether he liked it or not. I'm constantly in his ear, or he's in mine. And you know, we're going through a range today of 1 inch to 8 to 10 inches of ease. You know, so really, we auto tactics. Oh, he's the new.
But to go back to what they're saying, I do think the one thing about sailing in Annapolis that's generally true is it's very transitional all the time. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of water movement. There's a lot of ships. There's a lot of everything. It's very unusual in that it's always changing. So I think what these guys are saying is there's a lot of in unison sail adjustment, crew weight movement, tacking, whatever it is. There's just a lot going on here. So I think it's easy to get frustrated, and teams that don't will generally do well. And I think B, if something's not working, the thing I always say is just change something. Like doing the same thing over and over again with the same results, especially here, usually doesn't work too well. So just start throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. I think that's kind of the best thing for here, because literally you could be 50 yards away from someone and in 4 knots different breeze. I mean, it happens all the time. So don't get frustrated and just keep adjusting stuff. In my opinion.
Or alternatively on Travis's hip, and he's just pitching to the moon.
I mean, if you wanna highlight your weekend, just make Travis auto tack, and that'll be good.
Or send him up the mast. Anyway, so anyone have any questions for us? I know I want to kind of keep it short and sweet, just because I know we're here late, and everyone probably wants to get out of here, drink the beer, get home, whatever. But anyone have any questions for us? We've got opportunity for 1 or 2 on that sort of simple debrief.
Good luck, everybody.
All right, thank you guys very much, guys. Good luck out there.